This is Unmasked.
So do you go by Wulf?
Yes.
Wulf?
Wolf is my middle name.
Wolf is your middle name.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a hell of a middle name.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I the way that I got that name because I was born and raised in Spain, and we don't have middle names over there. We just have two last names, which is the dad's last name plus the mom's last name.
Okay.
So when I first moved to the United States, everybody has middle names, and I got into sales very early, and because of that, Wolf of Wall Street was getting very popular at the time, and you could say I started to emulate a lot of the sales strategies that he had.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna once I became a citizen, I kind of adopted that name as my legal name, like Wolf as my middle name legally. But yeah, ever since I started being into sales, I kind of just had that Wolf of Wall Street kind of just identity, I guess.
So is Jordan Belfort kind of like an icon for you then?
Absolutely, man. Look, we can we can talk about his the morals and ethics about what he did, and I never want to be the guy to condone what he did, but one of the things that we cannot deny is the guy knows how to sell.
Oh, absolutely.
And I read his book, The Way of the Wolf. You obviously watched the movies and just put everything into practice. And gotta give the man credit where it's due. So he's a hell of a salesman, especially after watching that debate that he had with Grant Cardone.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of demonstrated that he was the better salesman. So I take a lot from Jordan Belfort. Like as far as like his sales tactics and how to negotiate and stuff. He's one of the best in my opinion.
That is one of the things that I did also take away from the movie. Obviously, moralistically, he might not have been completely. Obviously, like now he's a completely different guy.
Absolutely.
He recognizes where he went wrong and stuff. But even in like the way that Leo, I don't know how much realistically Leo portrayed him. I mean, obviously, it wasn't too bad. I haven't heard anything that Jordan said in any interviews.
Yeah, well, he said that in real life it was a lot worse.
Yeah. So that was probably even not nowhere near as bad. And I've seen some sales guys that you look at them and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Sales sometimes, like, I know sales in general kind of gets a bad rap sheet, especially depending on who it is. A lot of them, like, it depends how far you're willing to take it, of how manipulative you're willing to be, of how much. But in reality, it's a psychology game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, when I started my career in sales, I kind of was that guy, where I was like, it was very like pushy and very like bait and switchy type of sale.
Mm-hmm.
And as I continued to progress into my industry and my career, I started to really evolve, and I started to really take care of my clients in a different way. I didn't want to be remembered as a sleazy sales guy.
Right.
So I think at the end of the day, the way that I approach all of my clients is just want to make sure that everything that I do it like it's in their benefit first.
Right.
And then if I can benefit from it, obviously because of the sale, then at the end of the day, that's a win for me as well too. So, but yeah,
that is one of the biggest like evolutions I've seen in sales, at least in the last like decade or so. Because I know that, like especially with things like car sales, it used to be about just get them in the car, get them off the lot, and you're good to go. But then the dealership started realizing like most of our highest profits are from return customers. If you can't make them return, you don't have business.
Exactly.
It's one thing to sell to them one time, but it's a whole other thing to be able to continuously sell to them. And so it went from just like selling them a lemon, selling them just like the shittiest car on the lot just to get them in something, to like actually creating a relationship.
Absolutely.
Because like in sales, I noticed like decades ago, it wasn't about a relationship. It was just about like, let's get you in something and get you out of my face. Now it's people have relationships with their clients, and that's one of the biggest things, and that's one of the things that I respect about sales now. It's less about sleaziness and more about like your return customer. I've had one customer for the last 10 years. He comes to me every time he needs it. I'd rather have that guy than have 50 people who never return to me again.
Yep. So, absolutely. No, I 100% agree with you and with that. And look, there are a lot of people that do sales that are very sleazy.
Yeah.
To this day still. But I think the industry is kind of started to shift, because with the amount of content that's out there about sales, I think people are starting to pick up on some of the strategies and some of the not so morally or ethically inclined
Yeah.
tactics. So I think it's becoming like you have to adapt to that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm currently dealing with an issue with a dealer that pretty much fucked us. You know, he sold us pretty much lemons. He didn't deliver the title on time, and we lost a lot of money with that stuff. So it's going through litigation, and I'm pretty sure he's probably not going to be able to have his dealer license anymore. But
Wow.
that's what happens. You know, when you don't do right by people, like it ends up biting you in the ass.
What originally made you decide that sales was your career?
That's a great question. Honestly, I didn't even plan to be in sales. My dad had a logistics business back in Spain, made a lot of money with it, and I just saw him be a business owner, a successful business owner for my entire childhood, and I just knew I wanted to be a business owner. Right, I wanted to own a business. I wanted to wear suits and all that kind of stuff, but I never knew. Excuse me. One of the things I didn't know about being a business owner is that every business has a sales aspect to it. I don't care what it is. Like it doesn't matter what type of business you have, whether it's a service, whether it's some sort of retail product. Like there's not a business in this world that doesn't have some sort of sale attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Because again, in order for you to be able to make money, you got to take the money from somebody else that's willing to pay for it.
Right.
Right. So, and that's something it didn't click to me until I got a little bit older and I came to the United States. And, I started to realize that I was really good at sales or that I wanted sales to be my career because I found out very quickly that at a regular job, you are limited and you're kind of capped on how much money you can make. There's pretty much like that glass ceiling that you can't ever just really get past that. It doesn't matter. You could become a manager or whatever. And matter of fact, once you become a manager, that's even worse because you're not getting paid hourly anymore.
Yeah.
Now you're only getting paid salary, which means that most likely you will spend a lot more time into the business of somebody else's business, and then you're only getting a salary. Right? So for me, I figured I was like, look, I know that if I can get better at sales and sell like higher ticket, I guess projects, objects, whatever you want to call it, like if I can get into higher ticket sales, I can make a lot more money for the same amount of work. So that's why I figured I was like, look, I'm a very ambitious person, so I knew very early on when I started in finance that I was like, okay, if I want to really be able to make millions of dollars, I have to be able to sell either a lot of things that have a smaller ticket price, or I have to sell a few things with higher ticket price. That's why I knew I can control my paycheck at that point.
What was the first high ticket thing that you were able to kind of get your hands on and kind of make a successful business out of?
Yeah. So honestly, financial services, like life insurance is my business, wealth management, financial strategies, like that's my bread and butter, and I get paid very well, as well as commercial lending, which is something we do also as well. So, but my first ever $10,000 week was by selling life insurance.
Week?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I made $10K, and it was like I think it was my third month in the business, that's kind of how the name Wulf started, by the way. Like it's a story I tell everybody when they ask me that. But the reason why I was called the Wulf of Spain, it was simply just because first week, right after I got licensed, I made $4,500. That was my first week, and then after that, I kind of stayed as a top producer, and then we went to New Mexico, and then in 5 days, I made $10K. So when I come back, there was a lot of recognition and, yada, yada, yada. I got on stage. It was like a little office, and I started doing the
the whole Matthew McConaughey
Yes,
thing?
exactly. So that's kind of how I got it.
Yeah.
But that was my first, like, big ticket. I was like, I made $10,000 in a week. I couldn't fucking believe it. I was like, holy shit. This is insane. That means that if I just worked a little bit harder, maybe, like, sold a bigger policy, that I could do it, And then after that, I closed an annuity, and I made about, I think it was like $15,000 on that one. A few years later after that, and then every year I just started getting like bigger tickets, And then when I got into commercial lending, it's just disgusting amount.
Yeah,
A disgusting amount per deal. Yeah, because we get paid a percentage for the size of the loan.
right.
So that's why it's a lot better that way. That's the biggest ticket that I got right now.
So growing up in Spain,
Mhm.
what was your relationship to money?
Well, that's an interesting question. Nobody's ever asked me that. In Spain, I grew up in Spain, and I didn't really understand money because I kind of had a silver spoon
Hmm.
fed to me. So my dad had a very successful business. We would literally vacation 3-4 times a year. My dad drove like the nicest BMWs. I was in private school. Like I had the whole nine, right? So I was kind of spoiled in the beginning, and then I never really understood the value of money until it was like 6 months before I left Spain, which
Okay.
was found out my dad, had an affair, and that was after my mom and my little brother already moved to the United States. And from there, kind of like my dad decided, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm not gonna like be part of the family anymore. And I was still in Spain. I was like 16 at the time, so I kind of went. I went homeless for a bit, which it was the most humbling experience I've ever had in my life. Because I went from living in a very big house,
Mm-hmm.
like being driven around with like the nicest cars and just literally could have everything I wanted. We traveled all the time. I was bragging to everybody of how how much money we had, and how we had all these things, right? And by no means we were just like millionaires. We were just kind of like high middle class.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like compared to everybody that went to my school, I was like the rich kid.
Right.
So, from going from that to literally having nothing, to having to literally sleep in park benches and just different atriums, I guess. So in Spain, I don't know if you know how Barcelona is laid out, but it's like a grid. So most people live in apartment complexes that are literally like blocks of,
Right.
I guess like a block of building, right? So
Right.
and then, but under those blocks of buildings, there's like businesses and there's like lobbies that you can walk in and stuff like that. So a lot of homeless people will like sleep like in that like little lobby before you actually get into the building because you can open it without any keys.
Okay.
And banks kind of work the same way too, because so everything here in Phoenix is so big, right? In Barcelona specific, it's so condensed and it's like a grid,
Mhm.
right? Like very tiny grid. So even banks would also be under apartments. You know what I'm saying? So again, a lot of the banks too, and the ATMs would not be outside;
Mm.
they would be inside.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
So a lot of the times the ATM areas were open. So that's where like, a lot of homeless people you would catch them sleeping there. So I went from like I said, having a very lavish lifestyle to sleeping in park benches, bus stops, those little lobby areas for banks and apartments and stuff. And I did a lot of couch hopping as well too. So here and there. So I was not homeless for the full 6 months. I was kind of like intermittent here and there because my aunt also bought a flat in Barcelona as well too. So because where I lived was about an hour away drive,
Okay.
right? So sometimes, and again, my family couldn't know of any of this, you know. I called someone, I guess. So forgot what I was. Oh yeah, so my aunt bought a flat in Barcelona, and where I lived was about an hour drive away.
Mhm.
So, my family couldn't find out about any of this stuff because, my mom and my little brother already moved to the United States, so I didn't want to worry them. So I was kind of like, hey, like I'll suck it up. So that's why from that point on, I was kind of just like in and out of like couch surfing to just sleeping in park benches and stuff. So I never really understood the value of money until that point. Yeah, because that's when I started to actually have to hustle to be able to eat. Because I couldn't afford to just get back home because I didn't have a home.
Right.
Until my aunt would come every other weekend to Barcelona. I would stay with her for about a week, and then it would go back to the same thing. So I had to figure it out, how to hustle and just kind of how to get into the streets and how to really get into that stuff. So that's when I really started to understanding is like the value of money. Like if you have somebody that's just kind of like feeding you, right?
Mhm.
Like with like dripping like little dollars or whatever, just to be able to sustain your lifestyle. You're on payroll still.
Right.
You're on your parents' payroll. So that's why I had to like figure out how to understand that.
And you were living this lifestyle because you just didn't want to have anything to do with your dad.
Yeah. Well, my dad was gone.
Oh.
So like my dad would travel for work, and so yeah. So he just like one day he just didn't pick me up from school.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. I tried calling. His phone went straight to voicemail. So I was like, all right. And at that point, it's like, I don't know why it just didn't really hit me that hard.
Mhm.
But I was like, whatever, I got friends. I'll just, stay with them. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of friends that were like squatters.
Yeah.
So I guess it didn't really matter to me that much that my dad didn't pick me up. I kind of was like, all right, cool. I get to spend more time with my friends.
Yeah.
I had like a pretty shitty influence in Barcelona, but they were good people. It just bad situations.
How old were you in this time of homelessness?
I was 16.
16.
Yeah, 16.
Do you think that had a bigger psychological effect on you than you might kind of anticipate?
Dude, absolutely. Now looking back, I always compare it to like people in my family, right? Like my little brother and stuff. Like my little brother is like everything to me. So I just always think about it as like, man, like I don't know if he could go through that stuff, because I think that what I went through wasn't like the craziest experience, but it was still pretty fucked up.
Right.
So I think the biggest psychological effect that I had is like, why does my dad not love me enough to just come pick me up?
Right.
So that was the biggest thing. And also I understood is like, because I cared so much about my mom and I knew the type of person that she was and my grandma too, and everybody was in the United States. And I knew that if they found out that I was homeless and they were there like 2,000 miles apart, like they could get like a heart attack because they're Persians, so they're very like family oriented. So it's like everybody has to be safe. You know what I'm saying? So like even to this day, my grandma still like worries that I'm gonna catch a cold, even though we're in Arizona. And she tells me like take a jacket with you or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the type of people they are. So at an early age, I figured I was like, man, like I have to figure it out. I have to figure out like how do I take care of my family without them having to worry about me. So I had to figure it out very early. It's like, okay, my dad's not at the picture anymore, so something has to change in me because I was super spoiled, bro. Like I was that spoiled kid that I was like, if I want something, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna cry about it enough to fucking get it, and that changed very quickly, man. So I'm very grateful for that, to be honest. And it kind of sounds weird, right? But I don't want to. I'm not gonna say that I completely healed from my dad abandoning us and all that, but because it still affects the way that I live sometimes. But I'm also not oblivious to the fact that it needed to happen. To become the person that I am today, that needed to happen. And if it didn't have if it wouldn't have happened, who knows, dude? I would probably be just maybe doing hardcore drugs and fucking just would have killed myself or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I got you. I'm kind of curious more on this journey because obviously the man sitting here with me today is not that homeless kid, couch hopping and all that. What age was it that you arrived in America?
I was a month before my birthday, so I was still 16.
Okay.
So it was 6 months. So January 5th or January 13th. No, January 5th of 2013. That's when my mom and my little brother came here.
Okay.
And then a week after that is when all this shit started going down.
Okay.
And then, at that point, like, so I got very involved with the squatters, with the Antifa, anarchists. Like, I even had a full-on mohawk. And I was just, like, even getting into riots with the police in Spain. And I was a completely different person, dude.
Dang.
So when my aunt, like, the only thing I did have that my dad didn't ever, like, stop was just my phone service. So I still had my phone. I was still able to connect to the internet and stuff. So my aunt would call me on Facebook Messenger or Skype actually, and she would tell me, "Like, hey, like for the summer, just come over to the United States, just spend the summer with us, and maybe you can stay." And at that point, I was just such a rebel kid. I was like, "Nah, fuck this, like, fuck the U.S. Like, capitalism is bad. Like, communism is the best thing." And that's what I was brainwashed into believing that because it was the crowd that I was around.
Right.
And it's funny because after I graduated high school. In Spain, I came to the United States, for a vacation, and the dumbest thing I could have done is not take all my stuff from Spain, because I left everything in Spain because I thought it's like I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And I should have taken everything with me, because like then I came here, I did not want to leave. As soon as I got to the United States, I saw how great California was, the weather, the women, everything. I was like, fuck it, I'm not leaving. So I ended up staying.
Did you just leave everything and
Yeah.
Barcelona and just
Yeah.
start over.
Yeah, because think about it. So my dad still had his like the house that I grew up in.
Yeah.
All my stuff was there.
Okay.
You know, so and my aunt and uncle from Spain, they still live there. You know, so
Right.
I could have still got some of my stuff back. Because again, my dad would pop back out every once in a while.
Gotcha.
You know, and I would stay with him at my house. You know, every once in a while. And my relationship with my dad was very, very weird at that point. Because again, he left me. He came back like nothing happened,
Right.
and he would leave again. It was just it was the most awkward relationship. But I didn't care because I was a rebel. You know, I was like this Antifa fucking anarchist. You know, so but yeah, all my other stuff was there. Like I left a lot of clothes in my house. I left a lot of like my laptop was there, my PlayStation 2, like all that kind of stuff that I grew up with was over there. You know, so and I wish I would have just at least taken some stuff with me, man.
Honestly, though, I feel like kind of starting over fresh is sometimes the best thing. Like, even if you have, like, I've kind of done that before to where I just left 90% of my stuff somewhere, and I'm like, I'm just going to donate all of this. I had to kind of start over. And doing that kind of helped refresh my mindset a little bit, kind of realize that, like, all the materialistic stuff I had can just be thrown away, and I just need basics and stuff. So I was like, half the stuff I don't even use. I haven't
Right.
touched more than half this in probably a couple of years. I don't really need it. So having to do that honestly kind of was refreshing to me.
Absolutely, man. I agree. I think I've had to start over like 2-3 times now, and that's kind of how it felt. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? And it's like, not that I miss it, but it's like, you know, we came here with nothing but like 350 euros that my dad gave me before I left. Before he
Okay.
dropped me off at the airport, he's like, hey, here's 350 euros. Don't spend it at the mall. That's literally what he said. And, you know, I came out here, and it's like, I didn't have nothing. Like, not even the clothes on my back. I just packed a suitcase with like maybe like a week's worth of clothes, you know, because I was just going to wash it at my grandma's house and all that in California. And it's just like, I wish I would have brought more, you know, so
Yeah.
had I known. But, you know, it definitely served a lesson, and it was a great experience now.
Yeah.
Looking back, when I was going through it, it was fucking tough, but it was what needed to happen.
I agree. I think that something like that does help shape a lot of your current mindset and a lot of who you are now as a person. So you arrived to America, and then what was your first like taste into money, kind of? Because obviously at that point you were still very broke.
Yep.
You still didn't really have a whole lot. You were what, 16, 17 at this age?
Yep.
Did you immediately start working, or was it kind of just like hanging
So
out?
I wanted to start working immediately because in my eyes, I graduated high school in Spain, and I was like, maybe I can go to college, you know. But I was 16 at the time, 17. You know, I just turned 17 in September at that point, and you know, I try to figure out how to get to college, but you know, my transcripts didn't transfer like on time, so they were like, sorry, you got to go back to high school. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, dude? I just went through that, you know, so. Had to redo high school, and at that point I was like, well, fuck it, you know, I'm right now on payroll, you know,
Yeah.
with my aunt. Like I started, like we moved into my aunt's house here in the United States. I have like 3 different aunts, so we moved into my aunt's house here in Mesa, Arizona, and you know, I was like, you know what, fuck it, just I'm gonna do with what I have. I'm gonna do the best I have. I'm gonna do the best I can with what I have, right? So. Went into high school, I didn't really care that much, you know. So I was like, but I'm gonna play football. You know, I like some sports. I played football back in Spain as well too. So just fuck it, you know.
Are we talking about like soccer football or like
American football?
Okay.
American football. Yeah, back in Spain, I actually got drafted to play for the All Stars,
Really?
like for the All Star team in my state, and we went to play to France and Italy and stuff. Yeah, it was great.
Oh wow.
So I came here. I was like, I wanted to play football again because it was a great outlet, you know, to just get out.
Yeah.
You know, to get out my rage and stuff. So it was cool. You know, so I played football. You know, I kind of just got a taste into like the American, I guess like you can call it like the American pie, right? You know, so I was fresh off the boat. I had the heavy Spanish accent, so I had a lot of attention from women. You know, it was cool because I was playing football, and you know, I was like this goofball kid, you know. So, but after that, you know, right after high school, it was like shit got real. You know, because it's like, okay, now I don't have the excuse that I'm going to high school. I graduated with a 1.7 GPA, so couldn't even go to college. I didn't want to go to a community college. I just wanted to. If I wanted to go to college, I wanted to go to a university. That didn't happen, obviously. And then my uncle was like, well, it's the summer. You got to do something. Like you can't just live here. You can't freeload.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put you to work for one of my friends who owns a roofing company. And dude, when I tell you that at the time I was like, I kind of felt like I was like slaving away because I technically did not have my my papers yet.
Yeah.
At the time, I was just on a visa, so when I started working in roofing, they were paying me like $5 an hour. Working like 12-hour days doing roofing, where the average roofer at the time was making about $18 an hour. So I was getting taken advantage of, obviously, but I was like, you know what, it is what it is. I'm still at least I'm doing some physical work so I can stay in shape, and I can spend more time there, and I could just at least like pass time, and then at least I'm getting paid something.
Right.
So I can save it and I can just buy like a car, And biggest mistake that I did was that with the money that not only my mom and my grandma saved and the money that I saved, I went and bought, a 1966 Ford Mustang. Beautiful car, had the red interiors, red leather and all that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
And again, it's all coming back to the value of money. I really didn't understand, right? Because I thought it's like, well, this is my money. I can do whatever I want with it, right? I know that grandma and mom helped me save it, but now it's my money. So I can decide what to do with it, right? Again, spoiled kid fucking habits coming back, right? So when I bought the car, everything was great. I drove it for 5 days, and then something went wrong with the engine. I take it to a shop, and pretty much they say, well, you got to rebuild the engine because the timing belt or the crankshaft or whatever, one of the fucking, I'm not a great car guy to be honest with you, but the timing was off, and I either have to replace the engine or I have to rebuild it. And at the time it was an inline six, so it is not worth like rebuilding an inline six, especially if it's in a Mustang, right? Usually you want a V8 on it, so that was 6-cylinder and it was an inline six, so it didn't have that much power anyways. So the guy literally told me, hey, might as well just get a new engine. And a new engine at the time would probably be like, $3-4 grand, maybe $5 grand. And keep in mind, bro, all I had saved, I spent it on this car.
So you're back down to nothing.
Yeah. And I didn't know about lemon laws at that time either.
Okay.
So I got fucked. And I sold it to one of my best friend's dad for like $2,200. So I took a huge loss. I spent like $6,600 on that car, and I only got back $2,200. So I got super humbled because all I wanted to do was I wanted to flex in high school.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm driving a Mustang. Like that's what I want. Like I want to flex. Sorry, I wanted to flex. And anyways, after that, I had to just settle for a $700 Camry. And maybe that's what I should have done from the beginning. I should have just got the fucking Camry, because the remaining $5,900 I could have saved them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I could have continued to save. So that right there just taught me a huge lesson of delayed gratification, which again comes down to the value of money. I think a lot of people just make money very quick, and they don't understand the value of it, because when it comes quick, it seems like it's easy to get.
Very much.
So like, to tell you the truth, it took me 8 years to be able to cross six figures. And now looking back, it's like I made a lot of money, but it took me so many losses, so much time just to be able to cross that 6-figure mark. Which 6 figures, like nowadays, is like 6 figures is nothing, right? You go to California, 6 figures is like the bare minimum to be able to survive,
Right.
So just doing 6 figures as an entrepreneur, that's even a huge feat, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't even get there. They're almost scratching that. But that's the thing. It's like it took me 8 years to get to that point. And I think that's the biggest value lesson, is that if I would have done things a little bit different, and if I would have appreciated the value of money a little bit more, I would have been a little bit smarter, and I would have probably got to that 6 figures a lot quicker.
How do you think making that first 6 figures, how do you think it changed you, or how do you think that it changed your lifestyle or changed who you are as a person?
Well, luckily, man, because of all the losses that I've gone through and everything that I've experienced,
yeah,
that money didn't change me at all. like I'll be honest. So I made 147,000 in just one deal. And at that point, like again, the spoiled kid started to come back, right?
Yeah.
It was like, go get the fucking AMG, you know, go get a nice Mercedes, like just fucking blow it, bro. Just
Yeah.
go get a nice, you know, AP, you know, whatever, dude. Like
Yeah.
you could like with that much with 147,000, I could do like pretty much like some good stuff. Like
Yeah.
I can blow it, right? And then I started thinking, I was like, well, it took me 8 years to get to a point that in one deal I made that much. This client took me 6 months in order to be able to close it and get that much. And it's like, and then I started thinking about all the losses that I took. I started thinking about my mom. I started to think about stewardship as well too. It's like, well, the only reason why I have this is because God allowed it to do so, you know, and because of my faith in Christ and because of how good he's been to me. I have the opportunity that I've made this much, you know.
Right.
It would not be fair, and it would be very disappointing to God if I didn't do right by this, if I wasn't a good steward of it, you know. So I donated about like 15% of that, you know. I put it back into so I did church tithes, and then I did about, you know, I put about 10,000 into like the care organization, which they essentially help sex traffic victims. So right off the bat, I'm starting to be a little bit smarter with the money. Not because like I'm trying to flex the charity, but I was like, okay, look, it's like I got this. Now I can actually do some good impact on it. You know,
Okay.
delayed gratification. I learned that from the first big chunk of money that I got, which was $6,600 at 17 years old. I bought a fucking car that didn't work. So boom. Now I understand about delayed gratification. What if I give it back to the community? Something that I can help in, you know, and then God's gonna reward me later on. You know, if I'm a good steward of the money, right? That's the one thing that I got in my mind. I was like, okay, this money I have to be a good steward. What does being a good steward mean? It means that you're a good manager. You're a good financial manager, right? So you know exactly how to use this money the right way. It's like if you're a financial advisor, all he's doing is losing your money. Are you gonna trust him?
Of course not.
Of course not, right? So I want to act the same way. If God's looking at me and he's entrusting me like I'm his financial manager or his treasurer, right? Would he hire me again? Right? So that's how I started to look at things. That's why I still don't have an AMG. I don't have a Lambo. I don't have any other crazy thing. Dude, I'm still wearing my $800 Citizen watch. This bracelet is $10. I got this one for $20 here. The ring was $30. Like all the chains and everything that you see is just like, it's stuff that I find online that's cheap, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna spend like crazy money on toys that I don't deserve yet. You know, so my relationship with money has changed for the better. Especially when I got that money, I was like, okay, this is the real test. I got this money. What do I do with it now? Right? Because when you're broke, right, you're praying to God, you tell him all that stuff. It's like, God, I swear to God, like if you give me this money, I'll donate this much. I'll make sure I don't spend it. Like you start making all these promises, right?
Yeah.
Like on how good you're going to be with the money. I'll invest it. I'll give some money to my mom. Okay, now you got the money. Now what?
Right.
Right? And I stayed true to my promise. You know, I tithed. I gave back to the community. I gave my mom some money, and I didn't fucking spend the rest of the money. What I did is I reinvested it. I reinvested it into the shit that I preach, which is the IULs, infinite banking, right? So I put money into that.
Okay.
You know, and then again, it's just like it all comes back to the same cycle.
So 147 is a lot to make off of one deal.
Yeah.
What was this deal that you made that money off of?
It was a cannabis. So it was a cannabis deal. These guys wanted to refinance their building. They wanted to get some cash out. They wanted to cash out, refi their building because they owned their building outright. About $100 million. That's how much their building was worth. But a lot of it was cannabis. So some of the lenders they don't lend against cannabis, so they'll just take the real estate at bare bones. So that's pretty much what we did. It took us 6 months, like going a lot of back and forth, and it's one of the largest. Actually, I think it's the largest grower here in Arizona.
Okay.
And I think they became the largest grower in Arizona recently. So we just got them $20 million, and from there, me and my partner made $300.
Okay.
And then we just split that.
So you went from like roofing and stuff with your family to, was it immediately jumping from that to like commercial lending and stuff like that?
No, commercial lending, I've only been in it for about 3 years now.
Okay.
But my partner, John, and Kara, they've been in banking for like 12 to 15 years each.
So what was the jump then to go from roofing, making $5 an hour, to these other sales jobs where you're making stupid amounts per deal?
So what happened was, so after roofing, I decided, it's like, okay, so roofing is very laborious, whatever. Like there's a lot of labor into it.
Right.
Put a lot of taxes on your body, and you're kind of stuck. Like it doesn't. You're gonna work a lot harder than most people, and you're not gonna make that much, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I gotta get into sales, right? And then I think it was like a couple years after that. It's like a year after high school, I got a call for an interview at this company called American Income Life, which was life insurance. And so I got a call from American Income Life to do life insurance sales. And then from there I started. That was about like almost like 10 years ago now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Right. So after that, I started, just doing life insurance sales. And like I said, I've been doing that for like about a decade now. And what happened is I started, because I had my life insurance business, that's I'm making good money with life insurance. And then I met John, which is my partner in the commercial lending, and he told me, he's like, hey man, like you should consider, doing business funding. I was like, what the hell is business funding? Like, what do you mean? It's like, well, we fund businesses. Like if you have a credit score higher than 700, this and that, or if you want to do real estate, acquisitions, whatever, like we do funding. That's a new concept. It's like, how much you get paid? It's like, well, we as a company can get paid between like 1% to 2%, sometimes 5%, sometimes 10% of the total loan amount. It just depends on the product. And I was like, what? It's like, so you mean to tell me if like somebody wants like $1 million, like you get 1%, like you make like 10,000 on that? It's like, how does that work? And it was like, yeah, no, that's exactly right. And from there, I was like, dude, that sounds like too good to be true. Because at that point, I'm not selling anything. It's like people want money.
Yeah.
So it's like, so how do I find these people that want to borrow money? And then he just taught me everything. And then we had a master plan on how to find these business brokers. And then, dude, all I did was I implemented what I learned from life insurance, which is like cold calling, right? Mm-hmm. And then pitching for an appointment, and then understanding what the entire pitch looks like, and then closing the deal, And I came to find out, cold calling for life insurance, there's a lot of fuck yous. There's a lot of like get lost. There's a lot of like, I'm not interested, right? But when it comes to lending, there's a lot of like, sure, let's take a look at it, or because like I didn't just cold call people. I would go on like websites like BizBuySell or LoopNet, where they already have businesses listed. They already have projects that are, available for financing, right? And all I had to do is just cold call those people, be like, hey, look, my name is Wulf. I'm calling from Elevate Capital, and I was just wanted to reach out because I want to make sure that you have some good options for lending wise, and my pitch at that point sucked, so I started refining, and then I started saying like, hey, look, I saw that you have this listing here, and I'd like to see if you already have a lender. And then I started saying like, oh, well, and we know that you already currently have a lender. We don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I would love to be able to at least give you a soft quote just to see if that works, and then just like that, it started to really transition, and now, with the Circle Syndicate, we've been able to really, really spread our wings to be able to get a lot of different deal flow. Mm-hmm. And now the average deal size that comes to our table is like about $100 million.
Damn.
Yeah. And a lot of them are real estate. It's like, it's the best industry, like, you can either buy real estate, invest into real estate, or finance real estate. And in my opinion, financing real estate is where you make the most money.
So if someone were to approach you and say, Wulf, I want to get into sales. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid to be that sleazy guy. I don't want to be sleazy, but I know that there's a decent amount to make in sales. Obviously, there's so many industries within, like sales has, like I was in sales for a while. I sold timeshare. For a little while. That was the most dishonest and the most sleazy type of sales I could have ever been in. But it did teach me a lot. It taught me how to have the thick skin. It taught me how to not take a no right away. It taught me like the basics, because timeshare is supposed to be one of the most difficult and like rugged type of sales to be in. But then there's other things. I did financial stuff for a little while.
Nice.
So I've had my hand in sales a little bit, but for the longest time, I always told people I'm not into sales, I'm into marketing, which for me there's a big difference because sales is one-on-one. That's where like you're really trying to build that relationship. And while I love building relationships with people, I don't want to feel like there's that kind of manipulation
Sure.
involved with making that relationship happening, with like having a certain type of like, oh, my goal with building a relationship with you isn't genuine.
Sure.
And obviously, like I've had instances where my friends were all like, "Oh, you're just a sales guy now. Like you're not really a friend. You're just always trying to sell us on something." And trying to avoid that, but still being the sales, kind of drove me out of sales. But as you were saying earlier, anything like, especially as an entrepreneur, anything that you get into is the sales field.
Mhm.
You're selling something, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, whether it's anything. Where do you think that they should start to, first of all, learn how to be a proper salesman, but also to build a decent career?
Great question, man. So, well, I do a lot of sales training for my guys. So at my firm, right now we are hiring. We don't hire everybody. I'll be very frank with you. We're very, very picky.
Mhm.
If you have some sales experience, great. But there's a specific criteria that we're looking for. But anyways, what I would say for somebody that's new and that wants to get into sales, I would say you should start with Chris Voss. Chris Voss is the FBI negotiator who owns the Black Swan Group. So he's very famous because of how he became one of the top FBI negotiators ever. You know, so I learned a lot of stuff from him, just because of the way that his approach to sales or negotiations is very it's called like a Socratic way. And the reason why it's called Socratic is because you're essentially putting your idea into your prospect's mind. And the way that it works is like, instead of you convincing them that your idea is good, you're essentially implanting your idea into their mind, and they're convincing themselves that that's a good idea. So the way that he talks about it is like, in a negotiation, it shouldn't be I win and you lose. It should be like I win and you win as well too. And most of the times, it's still my idea, but I've came to be able to instill my idea onto you, and you've been able to logically and emotionally justify that it is a good idea. So, but because it comes from you, and I'm not getting you to say yes, right? It's like it's coming out of your own mouth, right?
Yeah.
So again, Chris Voss, one of the greatest, in my opinion, negotiators on earth, you know? And then from there, if you want to get a little bit more pushy and more, you know, aggressive sales, and you're looking at Jordan Belfort,
Yeah.
you know, or I would say Tom Hopkins is a great guy as well too. But to be honest with you, man, if I could restart my journey on sales, I would probably start at solar. I would probably start in some sort of door-to-door. Or honestly, dude, one thing I did is I sold advertising for Yelp while I was building my business. I also sold website security for SiteLock. I made a lot of money on both, you know? And the reason why I would suggest doing telesales, like phone sales, with a big corporation that offers you a salary, because at least the salary covers your bills.
Right.
But then you also have the opportunity to make commission. That's the best of both worlds, right? And then you can learn, like, to stay sharp on your toes, because you're constantly on the phone. You have to be on the phone because that's your job, right? It's not, you can't take days off, because if you go to solar, if you go to one of these places where they just give you straight commission and you're not used to that, guess what? Your schedule is just going to be empty.
Yeah.
Right? But if you go to a place like SiteLock, Yelp, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, any of these places, right, that you have to sell a package, but they also give you a salary, that's going to be a lot more appeasing, because you have at least the salary that's going to cover your bills, and then you have to show up because you're a W-2, so you're obligated to show up, right? So you're going to show up and you're going to get the work done, or they'll fucking fire you.
Yeah.
Right? And then once you've learned that skill, once you've been working there for about a couple of years, you've been able to save a nice enough nest egg, guess what? Now you can choose to venture out and do solar. Now you can venture out and do, for example, car sales. Or if you got what it takes and you want to see if financial services is a good fit and you can do commercial lending, you can do infinite banking, then you can reach out to me and we can see if you're a good fit for us.
Interesting. Okay.
And we'll train you everything. We'll pretty much give everybody the tools that they need to be able to do that. But honestly, there's in my opinion, there's nothing that beats financial services when it comes to commissions, when it comes to sales, anything like that. Because even with solar, bro, it's like a very like grunt work type of work. And you got to be on the doors like eight hours a day or some shit like that. And I think you can make more money than these solar guys, especially because with life insurance and financial services, you got the renewals, which means you sell the product once and you get paid forever. Mm-hmm. With solar, you get paid once.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for real estate. If you sell a house, you only get paid once. With life insurance, you get paid forever. That's why we're in that business.
The most difficult thing, because I was even looking into getting back into sales a little bit just to be able to start making a little bit of money to reinvest into things like this podcast and stuff.
Sure.
But the most difficult thing was the fact that, like, when you're going into these more high-ticket sales, you have to sometimes put in a lot more work than pay at first, especially, like, when you're first starting. It might take a few months to get that. So, like, there was one company that was going to hire me, but they're like, just letting you know, like, you're going to be pulling probably about 60-hour weeks, and you're probably not going to get paid for the first, like, 2 months until you start making deals. And I'm like, well, shit, I need still money right now to eat.
Yep.
And they're like, well, until, like, usually people that we hire have about a 3 to 4 month nest egg to be able to do that. So I feel like that's one of the biggest obstacles to be able to get into
100%.
these sales, which is why that whole salary plus commission does really help. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of companies that will offer something like that.
I just named 3.
Yeah.
ZipRecruiter, SiteLock, and Yelp. Those are great companies to start, and I don't get any referrals from them, so you guys can most definitely take a look at that. But that's a great place to start. It's because that kind of happened to me too, right? So after I left the first insurance company, because there was some bullshit happening, I tried to do it on my own. I had no leads. I had to buy the leads on my own. So eventually I ran out of money, right? Because I was not as good in sales as I should have been, right? So if I try to do that now, with the experience that I have right now, it's no problem. I could survive, right? I could even thrive. But what I would suggest most people is like, at least have $15,000 saved into your bank account before you actually go full time into like straight up just commission sales, right? Because again, things take long,
right?
Especially if the bigger the money, like the bigger the commission check, the longer the sales cycle,
right?
Like I said, this $147,000 deal took me 6 months,
and that's with a lot of experience behind your belt. That's not just coming right out of the bat. That's you having a lot of sales experience, a lot of training, a lot of knowledge and stuff.
Yeah, man, and That's pretty much it, man. So it's like at the end of the day, people kind of rush into things a lot, and if you don't have good money habits, it doesn't matter if you make, like I said, you make $1 million, you make 10, you make 100,000, it don't matter. If you don't have any good money habits, you'll blow it. And the reason why people can't save $15,000, think about it, dude. Like I'm saying, save $15,000, and some people will be like, oh, $15,000, that's a lot of money. Like I can't even afford it. No, that's bullshit. That's a lie. I was full time at Yelp. My salary was like $47,000 a year plus commission, and I was paid like $2,000 at rent. I had my car payment, I had insurance, I had the bills that everybody has, and I was still able to save $15,000. You know what I'm saying? Because I was literally not going out. I was not just spending the fucking money. Like the little that I had, I was saving it. Because I had a fucking plan. I knew I wasn't gonna be there for long. Because I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to reinvest into my business. You know what I'm saying?
As someone who's financially, I guess, would you say you're in financially a good spot? How would you describe your relationship to money now and kind of just your overall, when you think about money? A lot of people have that scarcity mindset. A lot of people have that like hoarder mindset when it comes to money.
Sure.
Like they want to keep it all, like the show Extreme Cheapskates and stuff. Honestly, those kinds of things make me sick. I'm
Absolutely.
like, when you're thinking of money in that way, it's disgusting.
Absolutely.
So as someone who has the financial success, I guess you could say, what's your first lesson on money that you would give to somebody who has that kind of mindset?
Yeah. So I'll give you an analogy. So for example, this phone, right? This is everything for us, right? So I can be just like doing this, no problem. Like I'm cool, right?
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to it. Like I'm not even looking at it. Doesn't matter, right? I know I'm not gonna drop it because I'm not worried about it, right? But it's because there's a table under it. Now let's just say we go to the rooftop, and I try to do that over the edge. Like I put my hands over the edge where
Right.
there's no, like if I drop it, it's gone.
Right.
Right now, I'm like fucking like gorilla gripping the phone.
Right.
Right. What is that? That's attachment. People have the same relationship with money. They have that attachment to that money. Right. They treat it like like if it's never gonna come back. And I'll be honest, dude, sometimes I suffer from that as well too. I'm not perfect, right? So sometimes I'm like, fuck, like I don't know if I want to spend, that, $1,000 like plane ticket or whatever, or just like a $500 dinner, And then I started thinking about it. It's like, look, the more detached you are from the specific thing, it almost is like the universe kind of like works into your favor, or God works into your favor, and it kind of just like brings you more, because you're not afraid of it. You're not afraid of loss. The more afraid of loss of something you have, the higher the chances they are that are going to happen. Like, and that's kind of how I think about it. Is I'm not attached to a dog. And by the way, that doesn't mean that to be a fucking idiot, right? Like, it doesn't mean like, oh well, I made $147,000. I'm detached from it, so I'm gonna go buy a $60,000 car cash. Like, that's a dumb financial decision. First of all, right? You don't ever want to buy a fucking liability cash. First of all, right? So, but it's about understanding that you know what you know about money and that you're good with it. You know that you shouldn't be fucking spending it, right? But if you understand that you can reinvest it, that you understand that you're actually working for it, that you're actually working towards a specific goal, your relationship with money is like you are the master of the money. Like, for example, the money that I have doesn't rule over me. You know what I'm saying? First of all, keeping money in a bank account, dumb decision. You shouldn't keep money in a bank account more than just like whatever your emergency fund is. But anyways, like, my money is not my master. I'm its master. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell it what to do. Most people, they let that dollar amount in their bank account dictate that. Oh, gotta go out to, clubbing this weekend, so I gotta get a bottle. Or, whatever. Like, I wanna, this time I've been eating steak for 4 nights in a row. I haven't really been putting work, but, I wanna get another steak. It's like, it's the money in your bank account starts to rule your decisions, rather than you thinking logically and be like, look, okay, I understand this is what I want to do, but what have I done to deserve that? Nothing? Well, then I don't deserve it, and I'm going to tell my money to stay there. I'm not going to let it rule me and fucking seep in all this fucking fear and say like, oh, I can't fucking spend it into this like advertising campaign, or I can't spend it into this little like I need new tires, but if I spend $1,000, it's gonna take away from my thing. What I say, dude, you need new tires. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have the wrong mentality. Like, you spend the money on the places that you shouldn't, and you don't spend the money in the places that you should.
Right.
I think it's pretty important to get new tires, because if you crash,
it's an even bigger loss.
It's a bigger loss, right? So for me, it's like, stop going out that much. Make sure you take care of your affairs, take care of your family, and reinvest back into yourself, into your business. If you make $20,000, you have $20,000 saved, then don't be afraid of going full time. As long as you're not being an idiot with your money, $20,000 should at least last you 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
And then from that money, then you can just go on your own and do your own thing. So for me, like, my relationship with money is like, it's like I understand what the money is for right now, and I am not in a scarcity mindset. I know money's gonna come back. Especially because I've been working every single day, and I work like 8 to 10 hour days. It's like, it is impossible. Like, logically speaking, it is impossible to do the actions required to get paid and then not get paid. The problem is that people quit before they get paid. They don't have the patience to be able to get there. One of my buddies, Kane, from the syndicate, says this is like, if you got a wire confirmation, right? Let's just say a wire takes 3 days. If I just initiated a wire right now for $100,000 to you, you can check your bank account, it's not there, but it's going to be there in 3 days. How would you act?
I would keep working. I would keep doing whatever I did to get that money.
Exactly. You keep working, and not only just that, but it's like, that money's coming.
Right.
You won't be afraid. It's like, am I going to be able to pay rent next week? Dude, the money's going to be there in 3 days.
Yeah.
Even if I have to pay an extra, like late fees, I don't care, dude. The money is coming.
Right.
The money is there. It's not like I'm not afraid of like, oh, is the wire gonna bounce? No, if I have a wire confirmation, it means that my bank issued that wire, which means that I have the money to be able to send it to you. And that's what I think people need to start thinking about. It's like, look, act as if you have the wire. Act as if you have the wire confirmation. You know?
Interesting.
When my partner sent me that $147,000, like wired me that $147,000, like I went with him to the bank, and I only had $200 left to my name. Okay, and my partner initiated that wire right in front of me. Obviously, the money didn't post, but dude, I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic, bro. I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude! We just made all this fucking money. It's crazy, blah, blah." You know, we still went back to work. I didn't worry about like, fuck. I only have $200 in my fucking name. I don't care, dude. I got 147,000 coming.
Yeah,
like I'm good, bro. You know, so I think that's the problem. Is like people act like as if they're never gonna get money again, and you always have to think about this too, man. Every single bad situation you've ever been, you've made it through. No matter what, that's why you're still here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You'd be homeless in the street. So think about that, right?
Yeah.
Is this the only bad situation you've ever been? No. Have you been through other stuff? Yes. Did you make it through? Yes. All right, so you figured it out. Congratulations. You can do it again. You know?
Yeah. There was another show that I was watching that one of the lessons that he wishes that he kind of knew sooner is this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a huge thing. So I was like, even on your highest of highs and your lowest of lows, this too shall pass. And for me, that was a huge game changer because like I've been in times where I'm like, I have $9 right now. I don't get paid for another like week. And I'm like, well, one of these days I'm gonna look back and be like, damn, well I did that. I can do anything.
That's right. That's right.
And
this too shall pass, man.
So for you right now, what's your goal?
Financially, I mean, 100 million.
Okay.
You know, this next year, that's like the goal is 100 million in revenue. But you know, I think money can only take us that far, right? So my biggest goal is like I want to be able to actually do some good. Excuse me. So my strategic partnerships that I have right now, they're strategic for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I have big goals in mind, meaning like I really want to be very heavily involved in saving, or at least helping as much as I can with the sex traffic victims. I think those kids really do need our help. On top of that too, I think there's a lot of ways that I can impact society on an educational level. So I think right now there's a lot of misinformation being taught in schools, and they're indoctrinating our children in many different ways. So to answer that question, what's my goal? We would need another hour to talk about, right? It's such a loaded question because a goal is a finite target, right? Purpose is what drives us forever. And for me, my purpose is bigger than just like a check mark, right? Or like a target. So, but financially, like I said, 100 million next year. That's my goal. Trying to get to 12% body fat. That's another goal
Okay.
too. So I have a lot of goals, but my purpose is bigger than that. I want to be able to actually help the world, and I just have to be careful with what I say, because the powers that be that always listen,
Absolutely.
So I don't want to piss off the wrong people.
I have one question that it's kind of like my closing question that I try to ask everybody because of how different they can tend to be, especially depending on where you came from, depending on what your relationship with everything is. What to you is your true definition of success?
Success to me, honestly, success to me is owning like a European style castle or chateau, in like a coastal town in the Mediterranean, having 7 kids and, plenty more grandchildren, and being able to live in this huge plot of land where all my friends we live like all together in the same castle or the same, property, and being able to just spend the rest of our days just there,
Okay.
and also the presence of my family, so that to me, success, I will know I will be successful. I will know I am successful the moment I can literally just be in the same room, in the same house, in the same presence of my family and be like, I don't have to do anything right now. I can literally just be here.
Hmm.
That to me is success. Meaning like I literally have no worries. I don't have to worry about a call that's coming up in like 10 minutes. I don't have to worry about a meeting that I have to go to. I don't have to worry about like World War III starting. Like, no matter the situation, I will know I am successful when I have that moment of just peace and serenity with my family in a country in Europe
I
by
like
the
that.
beach.
That's awesome. I like that. Well, Wolf, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
I appreciate all the wisdom that you've been able to share. I know we didn't really give too much of an intro to you. I'll probably give you an intro once I'm kind of post editing and stuff.
No worries, man.
But I know that there's probably so much more we could talk about.
Absolutely,
But
man.
you're a very busy guy. And
I know we've been trying to do this for like weeks now,
Yeah,
so I'm happy
so-
we got the chance to connect, man.
I'm really glad that we actually finally got to talk
Yes,
because
sir.
sales isn't really something that I've had a lot of people on to kind of explain, and obviously it does have its own stigmas and stuff. So, thank you so much for giving me your time. I know time
Thank
is
you.
the most valuable asset that we have.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to wrap up with?
No, man. I think it's important to discern the purpose everybody has on this earth, and just you asked me earlier about a quote or a joke.
Yes.
I can't do a joke just because I'm kind of just I'm one of those people that if I'm funny, it's just gonna pop out naturally. But I do have one quote that's been carrying me for a long time, which is, "He who worries before it is necessary worries more than it is necessary."
Ooh.
Right? And again, if you want to dissect that, is like whatever's going to happen in the future, worrying about it now, it is not going to help the situation. Whenever it happens, if it's going to happen, let it happen when it happens. Right? It doesn't make any sense to worry about it like 3 weeks before. Like a lot of people like worrying about World War III and all that stuff. And let's just say if it's happening in May of 2024, why worry about it now?
Right.
It's gonna happen in like fucking 5 months, dude. Just like be present right now. Don't worry about what's gonna happen in the future, right? So again, he who worries before it is necessary worries more than it is necessary. So,
I like that a lot.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Alex, I appreciate that, man.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Awesome.
today.
Thank you, Wolf. I appreciate you.
Awesome.